Essential Tremors is brought to you by WUOT.
This episode is brought to you by Atomic Books. Atomic is an independent bookstore full of objects made of paper, vinyl, plastic, and various other actual materials at the edge of time. Specializing in literary comics, small press, art books, and great regional beer at 8 Bar in the back of the store. Come to 3620 Falls Road in Hamden or go to atomicbooks.com. Atomic Books, literary finds for mutated minds. This episode is brought to you by Idle Hour, Baltimore's best-sounding corner bar. Our home away from home, Idle Hour's relaxed, intimately lit space in South Baltimore is a favorite for people interested in quiet conversation with vinyl as the background. Featuring sets from local and touring DJs playing jazz, soul, Latin, funk, and electronica, or just thoughtful choices from their in-house staff. Idle Hour is also home to our monthly Selector Series events, in which musicians play records that are important to them to a highly attentive audience. Visit Idle Hour in person at 201 East Fort Avenue in Riverside, Baltimore, or find Idle Hour on Instagram at The Idle Hour Baltimore. The Charles Revival series has been bringing carefully selected repertory films on 35mm prints and digital weekly to renowned Baltimore movie house The Charles for decades now, and its newest offerings are not to be missed. A sampling of this summer's films include Paris, Texas, Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, the undersung Kirk Douglas vehicle Lonely Are the Brave, and John Waters' Multiple Maniacs. Go to thecharles.com and click on the link for the Revival series for more information, or follow them on Instagram at Charles Theater Revivals.
So I just sat there and just listened to this tape and read the lyrics, and that was really that's why all of my albums, the CD version comes with the lyrics, because that was school to me. Because I never listened to this music before, so to be able to just look and read and follow along was it was big for me, and that album was so good. I just listened to it over and over, and of course it was angry, it was loud, it was overtly political in a way that was also familiar to me given my background, but it was so many new ideas and things I didn't know about.
This is Essential Tremors.
I'm Lee Gardner.
I'm Matt Byers. The idea behind this show is to have musicians and other creators talk about songs that shaped who they are. We're not looking for favorite songs necessarily. We're also not looking for songs that they'd choose to take with them if they were stranded on a desert island. What we're looking for are songs that have significance to them. Songs that might have changed the course of their creative lives or their lives in general.
Excuse me, on those drinks? It's 211 on the daiquiris. It ruins the whole day when my baby mother mad at me. Spliff could probably jump your car battery. Birds of paradise in the menagerie. A single death is a tragedy, but eggs make omelets. Statistics, how you look at war casualties. Killing is one thing, what sticks is how casually. Nonchalant, 5 in the morning, what I grew up on. God bless this sweet home, my beloved haunt. 124 Bluestone, crouched on thin haunch. While I get domed from the living, conch fritters crisping in the kitchen. Grew gaunt in prison, my own warden, celly and superintendent. Flaunt, flagrant disassociation, dissonant cadence. Free political dissidents from their cages, but leave them open, we got lists of names.
New York City-based underground hip-hop artist Billy Woods might be best known as half of duo Armand Hammer, but is also well known as a solo artist. His 2024 release, Maps, in which he worked with beatmaker and producer Kenny Siegel, earned a Best New Music designation from Pitchfork and cemented Woods' place as one of the most highly literate and complex thinkers in underground hip-hop today. Woods was interviewed before a live audience by guest host and former guest of the show, Claire Rousay, at the 2024 Big Ears Festival in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Over the instrumental to keep it thorough. My chain bang, glass ceilings, Joe Burrow. When the contract came, white man read while I sit brow furrowed. Rappers linked out, Second Amendment.
The first song Woods chose as being formative for him was Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos by Public Enemy.
I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened and read it and said they were suckers. They wanted me for their army or whatever. Picture me giving a damn, I said never. Here is a land that never gave a damn about a brother like me and myself because they never did. I wasn't with it, but just that very minute it occurred to me. The suckers had authority. Cold sweating as I dwell in my...
The first one I picked, now I'm about to ask you which one I picked. The first one I picked, I believe, is Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, Public Enemy. So I was born in the U.S. My parents met in New York City in graduate school. My mother was from Jamaica. And it's funny because on my birth certificate it says where my parents were born, and both of them were born in places that don't exist anymore. My mother, the British West Indies, and my father, Rhodesia. So they meet in New York City in grad school, and I was born, my sister was born in New York, and I was born in Washington, D.C. My father got in a position teaching at the University of Maryland, and my mother, shortly after that, would start teaching at Howard University. So I was there, I was in D.C. for the first 5 years of my life. But in 1979, so Rhodesia had and I know this is a long way from a Public Enemy song, but Rhodesia had, maybe not that long ideologically, Rhodesia had an apartheid state with a white minority, like a junior South Africa really was their role in the region. And you could make an argument that one of the bloodiest wars for independence happened in Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe, probably there or Algeria. And at the end of it, my father, who was a very active participant in the political arm of the ZANU-PF movement, what became ZANU-PF, which was one of the resistance movements in the country, the most active one. And my father was very active on the political spectrum. And so in 1979, basically, preparations were made for a settlement, peace talks, moderated by the West. And my father goes back to Zimbabwe. He wasn't a very pragmatic person, so he tried to get my mother to go with him then, and she was, of course, like, I'm not going to take our two children to a war zone. And then they had the elections in 1980. The party that my father represented won. And eventually in 1981, early 1981, he convinces my mom to come. So we moved there. I have an older sister, like I said. And I lived there for basically the 1980s. I lived in Zimbabwe, but we would always come. My father never set foot in the United States again, but my mother would always bring us back to New York City around Christmas time to visit her family. And sometimes we go to Jamaica too and stay there for a little while and then back to Zimbabwe or whatever. And so I would get doses of American culture. And I thought of myself as very American because I went there and it's like I had an accent that was different. This is very Anglophone British, you know. So I remember being a kid and they would just be like, just say grass. Let's hear how you say grass. And I'd be like, grass. And they would laugh, like dead ass laughing. Like, so I always felt very American there. And I would come back, visit New York in the 80s and the Jamaican side of my family. So seeing early hip hop but when we actually moved back here, so my father dies in Zimbabwe. My mother is like, let's go. We come back to the U.S. at the very end of 1989. And it was a kind of a rude awakening for me because I realized that although I was American in a sense and I'd been coming back and spending all this time here, I'd been thoroughly inside of a sort of immigrant America. You know, you come back and visit your family, but they're all immigrants or whatever. So I hadn't actually been in like Black American America, or to some extent even America, really, because I'd just been in New York City every time we came here, you know. And when I was a little kid in D.C., I was 5 years old. So coming back, it was a little bewildering and discombobulating. But it was also the beginning of, like, not the beginning, but rap music is really getting strong then. So anyway, we get back here, and probably the first week that we're here, the family that we're staying with, the Jamaican family that my mother knew, woman, they lived outside of Washington, D.C., and so we're staying with them while my mom looks for an apartment. And we went to the video store, and so that was an experience. Like, we have video stores in Zimbabwe, but this is like a big, big place. So we go in there, rent these movies, and one of the movies they rented was Do the Right Thing. And so I would say a pretty pivotal point in my life and an important experience was watching this movie, because it was like an introduction to like Black America in a way that I had not experienced it, you know. And also the music was just like, whoa. And at the end of the movie, they had a video for Fight the Power that had been shot on the street in like Fort Greene, Bed-Stuy, with all of them marching in the street. And of course, the song's crazy. I have had very little exposure to hip hop at that point in my life, and I was just like, you know, I was like, this is great. Plus, you're a 13-year-old boy. You're like, yes, fight the power. I am angry. You know, like lots of things. So later we move into an apartment, and I have my first little bit of money, and I walk to this record store, Kemp Mill Records, to buy the album. And I'm just excited. This is the first music I'm buying by myself, which I think is its own pivotal experience as a kid or whatever. You know, the first time that you're like, this is my money, I'm going to buy this record. And I went down there, and I remember this was when they had like the record itself, the CD, or there were no CDs. The cassette would be in the thing, and there'd be a long thing attached to it to prevent you from stealing it. And I see a Public Enemy tape, I buy it. I was like, is this their newest album? The clerk said yes, I bought it, I leave. Get home, look at the line note, look at the song track listing, and there's no Fight the Power. Unbeknownst to me, Fight the Power was made specifically for the movie and was such a successful record that then they put it on the album that comes out in 1990, Fear of a Black Planet. So my first instinct is just some real disappointment, you know? But they had this long, it was a cassette, but it folded out mad times, and they had the entire lyrics to the whole album printed there. They even included Flavor Flav's lyrics, which is arguable if that's necessary. And so I just sat there and just listened to this tape and like read the lyrics, and that was really like, that's why like all of my albums, the CD version comes with the lyrics, because that was like school to me, because I never listened to this music before, so to be able to just look and read and follow along was like, it was big for me, and that album was so fucking good.
So, and every man's demand got served, along with the time they served, decency was deserved. To understand my demands, I gave a warning, I wanted to govern y'all.
I just listened to it over and over, and of course it was angry, it was loud, it was overtly political in a way that was also familiar to me given my background. But it was so many new ideas and things I didn't know about, and so Black Steel and the Hour of Chaos was my favorite song on my first listen, and maybe remains my favorite song on the album. I think the way, first of all, just the power in Chuck D's voice and the heaviness of the beat and the intensity, I think are all things that I feel like I could draw a line for that song for myself through songs like Pompeii in my catalog, through a song like No Hard Feelings off of Aethiopes, where there's this because it's like now they, and it's like building and building this intensity, and Chuck D just projecting, and that was a big record for me. That whole album kind of just sucked me into being like a fan of hip hop. Every time I got some money, go to Kent Mill Music, buy another tape, look more carefully to see if the single that I'd seen, and this is the other interesting thing at that time. So MTV, Yo MTV Raps has just started, and BET has just started, and it's based in DC. So one of the places I didn't realize later, but lots of people didn't get BET yet. But I had Rap City, and BET had very little programming. So Rap City was like 3 or 4 hours long. It was a whole afternoon, and my mother is teaching. I went, from Zimbabwe, a totally different situation where had like maids and domestic servants in the house and whatnot, to being a latchkey kid, like in the DC metro area. My mother doesn't get home till, with professors, you never know. They can't catch you slipping. But most of the time, she didn't get home till 5 or 6. So it was like I had 3 hours to like sit and just watch rap videos. And that's what I would do a lot. Or I would like tape them. And then I would just go down to Kent Mill Music, buy cassettes. And so that was the start. That was the start of my love of the art form. And Do the Right Thing, and that whole experience was the start, to me, of a new part of my life, for better or worse, where I was like, oh, I'm here now. This is what it really is here.
For everybody in the room, I guess my first instinct, like when you're talking about the track, is like it's constantly being like propelled forward in the powerful vocal performance, and how you relate that to how it like influenced works of yours. And I can see a similarity in both things, where it's like there is nothing in the track, in just from like a listening perspective, like everything in the track is propelling it forward. There isn't like anything that isn't doing that. Does that feel correct or no?
No, that feels correct to me. And I mean, that Bomb Squad, that's like Bomb Squad at their height, that production. And I think is part of why I'm kind of glad I came in that era, because I feel like I have a wide palette of production that I can enjoy, or that I like to rap over or listen to, and it could be sample-based stuff, it could be loud and noisy, it could be soulful. A lot of different vibes. Like I liked Public Enemy, and I liked Tribe. It wasn't. There were a lot of different sounds happening at that time, and I'm appreciative of that because I like that hip hop doesn't have to be, like there was everything goes into a Bomb Squad track. First of all, it's like they're sampling like 100 different things, so I never felt like, oh, it needs to be this or it needs to be that, and they had a short peak, in my opinion, I guess I'd say, but intensely influential, and so being there for that was really cool, because I feel like only a few years after that, Bomb Squad is fading in relevance, but yeah, I was definitely there for when they were they were on the cutting edge, and they were
and that's like a special moment. I feel like so many artists, people talk about like that golden time where it's like everything that's lining up, it's like regardless of what's influencing the music, it's just like if you were there and experienced it, your experience with that is different than it would be listening to it later on. Do you feel like that?
I do think, and I think about that. Well, let me say two things. The first one is that it was also an interesting time because I feel like hip hop was transforming rapidly. And so it'd be like something that was hot in 1989 when I got here. By 1991, it's like nobody raps like that. You know what I mean? You got to do something else. By 1993, it's something else. When in such short increments of time that if you missed them, things that were cool or dope or people thought maybe they might not have even been good, but people thought, when I get here, people like spell in their rhymes all the time. 2 years later, that's dead.
Not happening.
You know what I mean? That's like, no.
Yeah.
Something like how crazy popular that Daz Effect style was. But a lot of people had that style, and then it's like, that's gone. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I'd say is that it's interesting now because of streaming, people just listen to all of the music in like somebody will be like, oh, I like your music, and they'll start talking about records that are 12 years apart in the same sort of spirit, which feels insanely wrong to me. But then it's like, at the same time, you do art, other people take it in how they take it. It's like your children. You send them out in the world, and then they're their own people. You can't go and be like, run up to everyone, no, my kid's a nice guy. No, they think your kid's an asshole. It's like,
your kid was a nice guy.
Yeah, but there is that aspect that's kind of interesting to me. And it's also very different because you're pretty young, but when I was coming up, this was stupid, but as a fan of music, it was kind of incumbent upon you to aggressively gatekeep everybody. Yeah. That was like the right thing to do. Like if somebody, now I might have a show and people will be like, oh, I just heard your record like last week, it's so dope. And other people will be encouraging them to like listen. Whereas like when I came up, it was like, if you just were like, oh, I just got into this, that's already like, why are you even here? Yeah. Like you have to pass a written test on their first album. What happened? Like, no, not at all. And so, like that's just, you're a poser. You had to wear a uniform to go to the show, first of all.
Yeah, you got the dunce cap.
You couldn't just dress however you had to dress in the style that this genre of music just to go to the show.
Yeah.
But part of that, I think, was that everybody felt like, oh, well, you have to kind of know the history of whatever group that you're trying to listen to. You can't just be like, I like them, which was stupid, but it did have a cool effect of, you'd be like, I like this person. Now I have to like find out. I have to listen to the records in order and know like who left the band or whatever, different things happen. And, so yeah, it's weird when somebody comes in and just your music is all sort of like on a flat grid.
Well, yeah, because then
it's just like
the timeline. Yeah, the timeline's like their own life. Then
yes,
that's like all of the stuff. It doesn't matter like you made it or like how it's being presented by somebody else. It's like it's the way that they relate to it, and then the way they explain it to other people is all based off of their personal experience.
Yes. And there's no.
And you also can't choose the type of person that.
Yeah, and it's just a flattening of history. That not to say it's bad or good, that people are just like, this is the work, not like, this is the body of work is absorbed at once, as opposed to, a lot of times, like I said, it was dumb, but like you might be like, okay, I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now I gotta quickly go listen to the old records, listen to Bleach, pretend that I always had listened to it, whatever the case may be.
And then pretend you like Bleach more. You're like, no, it's cleaning up too much for me.
I'm looking for that fence.
The second piece of music Woods chose as essential to forming his sensibilities was Red and Gold by MF Doom.
I remember when, last past November, when Clown King got pounded in with the Timberland. They left him trembling, he was not remembering. Never tuck your denim in, just a frosted emblem. So we'll debate, wait, the fella ate gelatin, or either listening to what his weathermen was telling him. When I could feel it in my melanin, it's compelling us to break them off, no reassembling, no science fiction to no getting near you. Coming
Maybe like 1998. I heard MF Doom's records for the first time. Now, the funny thing is 1989, 1990, that's KMD. KMD, I think, if I had to guess, the first record comes out in 1990. I definitely remember Peach Fuzz being a huge single, and I was in middle school.
Okay.
And so it seemed eminently relatable, you know? And so anyway, again, with some of these people who just had records, because Fondulum was vinyl only institution. I was in somebody's, I know who it was actually, and I was in this cat's dorm and he was playing some records, and he played, it was a single with Dead Bent, Hey, and Dead Bent, Hey, and God damn it, can't remember the third song, but and I was just like, this is really weird. The Hey song samples Scooby-Doo, and it was all just really cool, but it was also like, especially the Fondulum versions of the records. So, okay, the Fondulum versions of the records sound like demos. The clarity is different. Some of this, it's the same songs, but some of them have been touched up by the time he records them again for Operation Doomsday on Subverse. I think he was more sober when he recorded the songs. The equipment was better. But on these versions, he's kind of slurring. It's very lo-fi. And it was just like, I hadn't heard any shit like that. And then the the song Hey definitely stuck with me because of that Scooby-Doo sample. And Dead Bent too. That beat was crazy. And so I remembered it was one of those records where you'd be like, if he let me get on the decks, I would play that. You know,
Yeah.
like whatever. And it stuck in my mind. But then so you talked earlier about what I was into. So unsurprisingly, I got kicked out of school for my junior year. They invited me to go to school somewhere else. I was not technically expelled, but a preponderance of bad things had happened in my vicinity, and lots of people I knew had gotten kicked out, or one or two of them had died actually, and so they were like, you should go somewhere else and get your shit together. And I went to Howard University for a year. And then I come back to New York, and by the time I come back, it's like about to be 2000, and a lot has changed. Cannibal Oxide, like Vorta went from my friend. I remember him telling me in the summer of '98, I was living in Harlem, and I remember him telling me like, LP's gonna do my next album, and I was like, delusional. Literally. And I remember then he was like, I mean, I knew he was nice, I knew he was great, but still it was like, at that point, it would seem like LP company flow was like,
Right, yeah.
and then I was in DC, when the Cold Vein comes out, and I remember being like, ordering the CD at my local record store, which didn't carry that type of underground music, right? I'm living in Northwest DC. I walked down to U Street. There was this little hood record store, and I ordered that and Operation Doomsday, because Operation Doomsday had also come out, right? And this is the days of like rap magazines, and for different reasons, I was living in DC, but I was going back to New York regularly in a different occupation. And so I kept ordering the record, and he had been like, I'll just give you a copy. But in my mind, I'm like, you guys are going to need these sales. Of course, again, had no idea what's going to happen. So you're like, no, I want to support my little friend. This is like my little brother. You know, when I meet him, he's like 16. And so it's like, wow, you actually have an album with LP? No, I'm gonna get you a sound scan. Yeah. And this record store dude, he kept being like, yo, they didn't bring it. Finally, one day I go, and he had Operation Doomsday and the Cold Vein waiting for me. Got them. Just huge point in and I really could have picked a song from either record. But I feel like saying the Cold Vein is important because it was a person that I knew, and I saw this happen. But it was also like I had somewhat of an inside view at that point of what was happening. And lots of his verses and some of the songs that were on there, I had heard like a cappella in my living room. Like 2 years before or whatever. So that was like a validation of something that I knew, as opposed to the MF Doom album, which was a revelation. Right. You know, like I already knew Mega was nice, and once they started doing the record with LP, they also had released this maxi single before with like Iron Galaxy and one other song. So I knew that it was working. I knew it was going to be fire. I got the Operation Doomsday record, and and they're totally different albums from the same time period, and I was just like blown away. I was like, this shit is amazing. Everything, like, talk about commitment to the bit. Daniel Dumoulin was right there. And it was like so thought out. And I think I picked Red and Gold because there's so many levels that this album operates on. Like, it's funny. There's the cartoons and all of that aspect, just some level of nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And then there's even a somewhat old school references and nostalgic vibe within the record, because he's an older guy and coming back, and then there's just the rapping ability and how he just he was always great, but at that point he's sort of retaining a lot of the agility that he had with his flow and the incisiveness of his writing from KMD. You know, because late period MF Doom, he kind of like raps one way. You know, it's just like, and like, he's like a karate master on like Doomsday, Victor Vaughn, toning down how punchy and aggressive the flow was on KMD, but still agile, still on the balls of his feet. Able to surprise you and how he attacks a beat. So all of that, it's funny, it's technically dope, it's interesting, it has this whole world that he's built up around it of this comic book villain and all of these things. But then on another level, as you listen to it more, it's about pain. There's a lot of pain and loss in that record. His brother had died, and he's gone from, the young KMD artist to like, and in some ways I think that's like, it was a joke, but things were real. Like, it'd be like, oh, Victor Vaughn was scarred and broken, and life becomes Dr. Doom, puts this mask on. That is literally what he did, the loss of his brother, the loss of his music career, other things that, you know, if you listen to his music, you know that the brother was incarcerated for a certain period of time or whatever. All of these things are his scarring, his pain, and he puts on this mask and becomes doomed. So that other layer is especially exemplified, I think, in the song Red and Gold. Man, I just think it's a phenomenal record. I listen to it all the time. And I also, on a smaller level, something that did affect me, and I think like on a technical level, is like the chorus changes subtly in the different iterations of it. And it's something he does at different points in his career, but that was the first time that I really noticed it. Like, and in the slight changes, saying something different or pulling different threads in one tapestry. And yeah, sometimes I do that as a direct result of that experience, you know, where like, the chorus is not quite the same when you listen to it the other time, and placing emphasis in a different place and how that can just add another layer to the tapestry of the song. But yeah, I think that that one for me, hugely influential album, and I would just say that that song for me really encapsulates all the levels on which his music is working, because it's like a very street record that at the same time has this kind of light beat that also becomes a little mournful in the light of the lyrics and the delivery, and then obviously there's a lot of pain, I think, in the song under the surface and on top. So yeah.
Beyond Video is a volunteer-run video library in Baltimore. Basically, an old-school video rental store reimagined with a 21st century nonprofit twist. Beyond offers nearly 30,000 titles from every region, era, and genre of cinema on DVD, Blu-ray, and VHS, a collection created by crowdsourcing disc donations from movie lovers like you. With no rental fees or late fees, members get unlimited rentals from their collection for a small monthly donation. Find out more about joining or donating at beyondvideo.org. Or when in Baltimore, visit Beyond at 2545 North Howard Street. And for a limited time, new members who mention Essential Tremors when signing up will get an extra month for free. The final piece of music Woods chose as being crucial to him was Lucifer by the Juggernauts.
Listen, you f***ers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. Who would not let... Listen, you f***ers, you screwheads. Here is a man who would not take it anymore. A man who stood up against the scum, the cunts, the dogs, the filth, the shit. Here is someone who stood up. Here is...
The way that they approached songs, and not necessarily the production as much as lyrically, was really startling at times. And so this record, the Juggernauts had been on a bigger label. They'd gotten dropped, and then they put out this vinyl-only record, Clear Blue Skies, which also has a single called Clear Blue Skies. And it was kind of like an EP. And I listened to it, and Bruin just had the ability to... his style of rhyming was conversational, but at the same time, he had this breath control where he could just unspool and unspool without it being like, it was effortless.
Yeah.
You know? It's like Ken Griffey's Swing, you know, where you're just like, wow, it's that easy. It's like you're just talking, but everything's perfect. And he also had this style where he would, I never heard someone do it before, where he would end a line on a word that made sense with that line, but then could also be considered the beginning of the next one, and that would change the meaning. If you looked at it that way, it would change the meaning of the first line. And that was mind-blowing. And then the third thing was the storytelling ability and having all three of those talents in one artist, you know, like great voice, great flow, great writer, technical ability is all covered, and then also creatively being able to do the things that he did. So there were 3 songs on the album that I really feel like I could have chosen. Clear Blue Skies was a song about a white kid being confronted by his dad about dating a black woman. And Bruin did both of the voices, and it was all rhyme. It's great piece of writing, art, rhyming, everything. Perfect song. And I heard it, and that was the first song I'd heard. And so I assumed, oh, this is a white rapper. And then to find out that he was black, this is like a basic thing, but you're just like, oh, people wouldn't do that. You wouldn't write a song about, a black writer wouldn't write a song about a white guy who has a racist dad confronting him about dating a black girl. Like, that just was something I never even encountered. And then there was a song called, oh my God, no, the name is escaping me. But it was about dating a girl, having a crush on a girl, starting to see her, and then somebody in the neighborhood, some ex of hers, threatened him. And the decision of over the relationship, and him wrestling with the decision of how seriously to take it, whether he should start carrying a gun on him, all these things. To this day, I still, not in the context of a firearm, luckily in my current life, but still say rather have it than not need it than need it and not have it. I swallow ghetto pride for fear and shit, but hard rocks become rock hard with rigor mortis. Respect is the commandment the divine trigger taught us. And so, like, deciding whether to take this gun with him when he goes somewhere. And then the song ends with him going to see the girl, and they're bringing her out in... he killed her. So can't remember the name of that song, but again, like high-level storytelling, incredible rapping, and this flow that was just like water. And then Lucifer was my pick because I think in a lot of ways it's the most complex. And maybe the saddest of the 3. But it's about this street guy who's just selling drugs, doing wild shit. He meets this woman, falls in love with her, changes his life, gets a regular job, and he starts working at the hospital and seeing all of these terrible things in the hospital, like crack babies and just starting to really struggle emotionally and mentally with his own culpability for things he had done in the past and the stuff that he's seeing in this hospital. And it's just incredibly powerful song. And all of those things, just what they did was broaden my idea of what like rap could be. You know, and on every aspect, being like, oh, this is like, this person is just operating on a totally different level on every aspect of this art form. And it was funny because then, not long after that, he did an album with Prince Paul called Prince of Thieves that's an entire sort of hip-hop play. Sounds like a terrible idea, but actually I guess not, because Hamilton made a lot of people very rich.
Yeah.
But it's really great, both time capsule of some of the great artists of that time period, and a great and ambitious piece of work, and another example of how Breezy Maroon's just one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, it just really made me, at a time in my life, again, a turning point, I think, certainly creatively, was going to school and just being introduced to lots of things. But one of them was just people who were from New York and had been, or even some of them were from California, and had been involved in like non-mainstream hip-hop.
Yeah. And
just being like, yo, being like, wow, this is crazy. Like, people just can do this. I thought of it as like, a rapper is just somebody you watch on TV rap and you like it and you enjoy it, but I never thought, oh, people I know could just go make, and you could have your own rules for what you want to talk about and what you think is important. So yeah, I would say that was a big record for me.
That night he had a dream and it was a child nursing upon the semen of the glass genitalia, clouded nut after clouded nut. He woke and shouted, what the f*** is going on? Smokey was Swayze. It's time to get loose if my brother can't take no more.
This has been Essential Tremors. Essential Tremors is produced by me, Matt Byers, and Lee Gardner. For more information about Essential Tremors, go to essentialpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
Society was looking at fiends of the pebble adored praise. Devil for Lord raised from the crystallized tombs who fumes from the floor blaze the soul sacrificial altar. He chose not to halt to worship, dealing that ultimate head rush.